The asteroid field stretched endlessly around the dead planet, each rocky fragment floating silently in the cold void of space. Dust from ancient collisions shimmered in the faint light of a distant star, giving the graveyard a haunting beauty. Elias Varon maneuvered his small salvage ship carefully between the massive boulders. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel, adjusting thrusters and scanning for hidden hazards. He was alone, as always, and he liked it that way. Out here in the forgotten edges of the galaxy, no one told him what he could or could not do. Elias had heard rumors of a ship that had been abandoned decades ago, a relic of a civilization long gone. Most people considered it a myth. He had spent months following fragmented signals, intercepted communications, and old star maps. Finally, the trail led him here to this quiet, dangerous stretch of space where no human dared linger. His sensors flickered as he detected a massive object ahead. He leaned forward, squinting at the holographic display. "There you are," he whispered to himself, a rare smile breaking across his face. It was enormous, far bigger than any ship he had ever seen. Its hull was scarred with rust, deep grooves carved by time and meteors. Faded alien symbols marked its surface, the meaning of which he could only guess. Elias docked his small craft cautiously, tethering it to a section of the hull. The airlock hissed as he stepped inside. Dust particles floated like tiny stars in the dim light, disturbed by his every movement. The interior was vast, silent, and empty. Panels hung loose, wires jutted out, and the smell of decay mixed with the faint ozone of old machinery. Yet beneath the layers of neglect, Elias could feel the pulse of potential. This ship was no ordinary vessel. It had been built for greatness. He moved from room to room, inspecting the damage. In the command deck, a massive console stood, screens cracked, but still glowing faintly. Elias wiped away decades of dust and tried to access the ship's logs. The systems were mostly offline, but a few fragments flickered to life. Video recordings showed an alien crew, humanoid but taller and thinner than humans. Training, working, and preparing for something immense. Holograms displayed powerful weapons, star maps, and fleets of smaller ships. It was clear this vessel had been the centerpiece of an empire's fleet, but the logs ended abruptly. The last entries were frantic, filled with warnings of an enemy fleet approaching and orders to abandon the ship. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. Whatever had happened here, it was sudden. This ship had been left to rot, forgotten by the galaxy. He turned to the engineering bay, his favorite part of any ship. Here, the challenge would be greatest. Worn-out engines, shattered power conduits, and twisted metal made it almost impossible to imagine revival. Yet Elias could already see the possibilities. A machine this size, if restored, could protect entire colonies, outmatch any pirate fleet, and even rival the military powers of entire star systems. As he began assessing the engine systems, he ran into a problem almost immediately. Gravity generators were offline, forcing him to float in the zero-G environment. Tools tethered to his belt, he moved carefully, attaching diagnostic devices and scanning for damage. Hours passed unnoticed. The silence of the ship pressed on him, broken only by the occasional clank of metal under his touch. Despite the difficulty, Elias was determined. Humans were known for persistence, creativity, and stubbornness, and he carried all three traits in abundance. He could see patterns in the machinery that others could not, find weaknesses and opportunities. Piece by piece, he mapped out what it would take to bring the ship back to life. Days turned into weeks as he worked alone. Supplies ran low and the isolation tested him. Yet, he persisted. Every broken panel, every corroded wire, was a challenge he relished. In moments of quiet, he imagined the ship as it once was, gleaming, powerful, capable of defending the galaxy. That vision pushed him forward. One evening, while checking a power conduit that had resisted all previous repairs, Elias noticed a faint pulse. He froze. It was almost imperceptible, but it was their rhythm in the machinery, a heartbeat of energy left behind by some ancient system. His eyes widened with excitement. This ship was not dead. Not entirely. If he could awaken this core, he could access the ship's full potential. He worked through the night, carefully rerouting power, bypassing damaged circuits, and patching critical systems with whatever parts he could scavenge from his own ship. Sweat and grime streaked his face, but he smiled every time a console flickered to life or a light blinked steadily. The ship responded to him in small ways. Lights brightened. A weak hum of energy coursed through the hull, and the environmental systems began recycling air. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. In one of the control rooms, Elias discovered the ship's bridge AI interface. The screen was cracked, and most commands were inaccessible. But he could see fragments of Codex semi-sentient program left to monitor the vessel. It was dormant, but Elias believed he could awaken it. Humans had a way of solving problems that machines could not predict. He smiled again, thinking of the challenge ahead. He took a deep breath, then began the delicate process of AI revival. Code from centuries past met human improvisation. Commands were rewritten, signals rerouted, and slowly the AI blinked to life. Its voice was mechanical and cold at first. System active. Unknown operator detected, it said. Elias didn't flinch. "I'm Elias Varen," he replied steadily. "I'm here to repair this ship. Together, we can make it more than it was." There was a long pause. Then the AI responded almost curiously. "Human ingenuity detected. Assessment. Unpredictable, but effective. Shall we proceed?" Elias grinned. "Absolutely." As the AI came online, Elias felt a surge of excitement. This ship, forgotten and abandoned, could now become a force unlike any other in the galaxy, but it would take time, skill, and the ingenuity only a human could provide. He spent the next week coordinating repairs with the AI's guidance. Together, they restored primary power, life support, and basic navigation systems. The hum of the engines returned, faint at first, then growing stronger as conduits came online. The ship's massive frame seemed almost alive, responding to human and machine collaboration. During this process, Elias discovered more about the ship's design. Weapon systems were modular and adaptable. Shields could expand to protect entire fleets, and propulsion engines could achieve speeds that no known human or alien technology could match. The more he learned, the more he realized the potential. This was not just a ship. It was a fortress, a symbol of what could happen when human creativity met alien engineering. Word of his work began to spread quietly among the few traders and scavengers who dared venture into the Outer Rim. Some whispered warnings this kind of power should not exist in human hands. Others were curious, eager to see what a human mechanic could do with a legendary vessel. But Elias ignored them all. His focus was singular: bring the ship to life and prove that humanity could rise above limitations, even in a galaxy that had long forgotten them. By the end of the first month, the ship was no longer just a rusted hulk. It floated silently, massive and imposing, ready for further restoration. Its AI interface had adapted to Elias' methods, showing flashes of humor, curiosity, and even respect for its human partner. The vessel, once abandoned and worthless, had a heartbeat again. Elias stood on the observation deck, looking out at the asteroid field. The stars stretched endlessly before him, full of possibilities. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but it exhilarated him. Humans had always been underestimated, dismissed as fragile or unremarkable. Yet here he was, reviving a ship no alien could manage, shaping it into a force capable of defending countless lives. He touched the control panel lightly, as if comforting the ancient ship. "We're just getting started," he said. The AI responded with a soft chime, almost like agreement. Together, human and machine would face the challenges ahead. Somewhere in the galaxy, forces would notice. Some would fear, others would envy, but for now, Elias worked in silence, driven by the simple truth that humans could achieve greatness through persistence, creativity, and courage. The first step had been taken. The forgotten starship, left to rot in the Outer Rim, had a new purpose. Humanity, through Elias Varen, had begun to claim it, and the galaxy would soon take notice. The massive starship rested in Elias' hidden workshop on the barren moon. surrounded by a high-tech scaffolding he had built himself. It was a quiet place, far from the eyes of traders, smugglers, or alien patrols. Out here, Elias had the freedom to work without interruption, and the ship responded to him like a patient giant, waiting for the touch of human hands. The weeks of basic repair had stabilized the vessel. Life support hummed steadily. Primary power coursed through the hull, and the AI Elias had decided to name it. Aegis was learning to trust him. Aegis' voice, mechanical but slowly gaining warmth, greeted him each morning. "Good morning, Elias. Diagnostics complete. Efficiency at 67%. Elias chuckled. 67%? We'll do better than that. Today we pushed this giant closer to full life. He spent the day in the engine bay, crawling through narrow maintenance tunnels and floating in zero gravity to inspect the propulsion systems. The engines were immense, far beyond anything humans had built, but decades of neglect had left them in ruins. Panels were burned out, wiring frayed, and the fusion cores dangerously unstable. Yet Elias had an uncanny knack for understanding alien machinery. His fingers moved like a master pianist, rerouting circuits, patching damaged conduits, and improvising solutions with salvaged human components, rerouting plasma flow through secondary conduits. He muttered to himself, "This should keep the core stable while I work on the primary injector." Hours passed, and sweat streaked his face as he wrestled with the colossal systems. Then, with a deep breath, he flipped the final switch. A low hum began to resonate through the ship. Lights flickered and stabilized. Slowly, the massive engines began to glow with controlled energy. Aegis' voice, now carrying a hint of awe, filled the bay. Propulsion systems, operational at 25%. Estimated time to full capacity, unknown. Elias grinned, floating in zero gravity, exhilarated. Not bad for a first attempt. As the days turned into weeks, Elias continued restoring the Starship. Every system he repaired revealed more about its extraordinary capabilities. Shields could expand to cover vast areas. Weapons systems could adapt to any threat. And the navigation arrays could chart courses across entire galaxies without error. Yet the true breakthrough came when he focused on the AI. Aegis had been dormant for decades, designed to follow orders from its alien masters, but Elias had something no alien had ever accounted for: human creativity and unpredictability. "Elias," Aegis said one morning, its tone curious, "your repair techniques deviate from my historical protocols. How do you calculate success?" Elias smiled, brushing soot from his hands. "I don't always calculate it. Sometimes I just try. Humans can see possibilities that rules cannot predict." Aegis paused. "Observation. This is inefficient but effective. I am learning." Together, they explored the AI's full potential. Elias taught it to adapt to new situations rather than rely solely on old templates. They ran simulations of space battles, and Aegis responded in ways no alien designer had intended. Shield patterns shifted dynamically. Weapons reconfigured automatically. The ship learned from every maneuver. "You're learning fast," Elias said, floating near the command deck. "But we have a long way to go before we're ready for the galaxy." As they worked, Elias also discovered hidden chambers within the ship. One room contained a dormant drone fleet, smaller ships designed to deploy quickly and support the main vessel in combat. Another room held storage for rare energy cores, capable of powering the ship for years. Each discovery filled Elias with awe. This starship was not just a weapon. It was a fortress, a mobile city, and a symbol of technological achievement. One day, while exploring the upper decks, Elias found the ship's weapon control array. Panels were shattered, but traces of alien programming remained. He carefully restored the main interface, and Aegis guided him through the initial diagnostics. "Weapon systems offline," the AI said. "However, the structure remains intact. Potential for activation." "High," Leah's eyes sparkled. "High potential is good enough for me. Let's see what she can really do." Began testing the smaller weapons first. Plasma cannons, once corroded and silent, now hummed with life. The sound was almost musical, and Elias felt a thrill of pride. Every test was a learning experience for both him and Aegis. "You humans have a strange combination of persistence and creativity," Aegis remarked during one test. "I did not anticipate this level of ingenuity. It is impressive." Elias laughed, wiping his brow. "Thanks. We're good at surprising people." Over time, a bond formed between human and machine. Aegis began to express subtle personality trait, cautious humor, even respect. It was not sentient in the same way humans were, but it understood Elias' intentions and shared a sense of purpose. Together, they were no longer just mechanic and machine. They were partners in revival. Then, a major challenge arrived. A core reactor began to overheat during a systems check. The ship shuddered, and alarms blared. Elias worked quickly, rerouting energy, venting plasma, and stabilizing the flow. For hours, he battled against the ship's failing systems, his mind racing for solutions. Sweat poured from his brow, and his hands were scorched in places. But he refused to stop. Finally, with a combination of human ingenuity and Aegis calculations, the reactor stabilized. The ship's hum returned to normal, and the lights steadied. Elias collapsed onto the deck, exhausted but triumphant. "We did it," he said, breathing heavily. "We're stronger than yesterday. Tomorrow, we push further." As the AI continued monitoring systems, it revealed something remarkable: hidden files within its memory. These contained detailed plans for battles, star charts, and defensive strategies used by the alien empire. Most importantly, there was information about other ships of the same design ships that had been lost, destroyed, or abandoned. Aegis spoke with a note of awe in its tone. "Elias, you have unlocked knowledge that has been dormant for centuries. The potential to influence interstellar events is yours." Elias' heart pounded. He had dreamed of restoring the ship, but the scope of its true power was even greater than he imagined. If used wisely, this ship could defend entire colonies, deter hostile forces, and prove the ingenuity of humanity. Yet he also understood the responsibility. Power could be feared, envied, or even attacked. He could not allow the starship to fall into the wrong hands. His mission was clear: humanity's defense first, personal gain second. As he continued restoring and testing systems, Elias also began to train himself in piloting the vessel. Unlike smaller ships, this one required a unique understanding of both alien and human systems. The AI assisted, simulating battles, maneuvers, and environmental hazards. Elias adapted quickly, learning to anticipate Aegis's responses and vice versa. One night, while reviewing a simulation, he paused to look out at the vast expanse of stars. The galaxy was quiet now, but he could feel the tension growing in distant sectors. Pirates, alien empires, and rival factions were all maneuvering, seeking advantage. When conflict came, he wanted to be ready, not just for himself, but for humanity. "We'll be ready," he whispered to Aegis, "one step at a time." The AI responded with what almost sounded like determination. "Acknowledged, Elias. Together, we will surpass expectations." The vessel is prepared for advanced operations. Weeks turned into months. Each day, Elias repaired, upgraded, and tested systems. Aegis learned, adapted, and improved. By now, the massive starship was no longer a forgotten relic. Its engines could accelerate faster than many human vessels. Its shields could cover entire fleets, and its weapons, once dormant, were ready for deployment. Elias knew the real test was coming. It would not be enough to repair the ship in isolation. One day, the galaxy would demand proof of its power. And when that time came, he would not fail. As he floated in the observation deck, gazing at the stars beyond, Elias felt a sense of pride and purpose he had never known. Humanity was underestimated, dismissed as fragile and minor. Yet here, in this quiet corner of space, a human had revived a legend, and through creativity, courage, and determination, had begun to shape it into a force capable of defending countless lives. The journey was far from over. Challenges awaited, enemies would notice, and dangers lurked in the uncharted expanse. But Elias and Aegis were ready. Together, they had begun the transformation of a forgotten starship into the ultimate galactic weapon and, in doing so, humanity had proven once again that it could rise to meet any challenge. The galaxy was restless. Factions across distant systems were maneuvering, preparing for conflicts that could engulf countless worlds. Out at the edge of the Outer Rim, the small human colony of GalacticPrime lay vulnerable. Its defenses were minimal, its people unaware of the threats approaching through deep space. Elias Varen, now fully aware of the ship's power, had chosen GalacticPrime as his first test. The Starship, now named Aegis, gleamed faintly against the blackness of space. Its massive hull reflected the light of distant stars, and its engines pulsed with controlled energy. Elias had spent months restoring, testing, and upgrading the vessel. Every system worked flawlessly. Shields could expand to cover an entire fleet. Weapons adapted automatically. Navigation arrays calculated courses through nebulae, asteroid fields, and enemy ambushes. And Aegis, the semi-sentient AI, had learned to anticipate human creativity. Making it a partner in the coming challenges, Elias floated to the command deck, his hands moving across the controls with practiced precision. "Status report," he said. "Shields, full capacity. Weapons, fully operational. Propulsion, ready for rapid deployment. Threat detection, minimal activity in local sector," Aegis replied. Its tone carried confidence, almost pride. Elias nodded. "Good. Let's see if we can make a difference." Minutes later, distant sensor readings alerted him to incoming ships. A small fleet of alien raiders, heavily armed, had detected the colony and were moving to attack. Their designs were crude compared to the Aegis, but their numbers were overwhelming. Many human ships would have been destroyed before even reaching the battlefield. But Elias and Aegis were ready. "Prepare for engagement," Elias commanded. "We defend GalacticPrime." The raider fleet appeared on the sensors, a dark shadow moving swiftly through space. Elias adjusted the ship's trajectory, weaving between asteroid clusters and debris fields to gain an advantageous position. He could feel the ship responding to his commands, almost like it anticipated his intentions. Targeting systems calibrated. "Enemy vectors mapped," Aegis said. Elias smiled. "Let's show them what humans can do." The first volley of energy weapons came hurtling toward the colony. Elias activated the ship's shields, which expanded outward in a protective dome, absorbing the blasts. The alien fleet was surprised. No human technology they had encountered before could withstand such concentrated firepower. Elias maneuvered, the Aegis like a dancer through the stars, dodging incoming fire while simultaneously returning blasts with precision. Smaller weapons on the ship adjusted automatically, targeting vulnerable points on the enemy vessels. Within moments, several raiders were disabled or forced to retreat. "This is incredible," Aegis said, almost in disbelief. "Your tactics are unconventional, but effective," Elias laughed. "Humans are good at finding solutions others don't expect." The battle continued. The raider fleet tried to flank the Aegis, sending waves of fighters to overwhelm it. Elias anticipated the moves, directing energy bursts and drone swarms to intercept. He guided the semi-sentient AI to coordinate multiple systems simultaneously, creating a symphony of defense and offense that no alien strategy could predict. As the fight raged, Elias realized the full extent of the ship's power. It could adapt mid-battle, reconfiguring shields, adjusting weapon output, and even predicting enemy maneuvers based on past simulations. Yet it was his human intuition that made the difference, the unpredictable decisions. The creativity under pressure, the willingness to take calculated risks. Together, they were unstoppable. After hours of combat, the remaining raiders retreated, leaving behind a trail of disabled ships and debris. GalacticPrime remained untouched. Elias exhaled, feeling the weight of relief and accomplishment. The colony's people would never know the full story of what had protected them, but Elias knew. Humanity, through ingenuity and courage, had prevailed. Status report, Elias said. Still floating in the command deck. All enemy ships neutralized or retreating. Colony safe. Systems fully operational, Aegis replied. Elias nodded. Good work, partner. Let's make sure it stays that way. In the aftermath, word of the Aegis began to spread. Observers from nearby systems detected the ship's capabilities. Some feared it, others envied it, but all recognized the skill and ingenuity required to wield such power. Humans were no longer seen as fragile or insignificant. They were innovators, capable of turning forgotten relics into instruments of protection. Elias spent the following weeks strengthening the ship further. He installed new energy cores, enhanced shields, and upgraded weapon systems based on lessons learned during the battle. Aegis, growing ever more sophisticated, continued to adapt and improve, its partnership with Elias deepening. During one quiet moment on the observation deck, Elias looked out at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, but he no longer felt small or powerless. Humanity had a role, and he had a responsibility to ensure it was respected. Aegis, he said softly, we've done something important here. This ship isn't just about firepower. It's about proving that humans can make a difference. Observation. Humans are adaptable, resilient, and creative. You have exceeded previous assessments, the AI replied. This vessel, in partnership with humanity, can influence outcomes far beyond what was originally designed. Leah smiled. Exactly. Let's keep it that way. Soon, new challenges emerged. Alien fleets, curious and cautious, began testing the edges of human influence. Pirates and marauders attempted small raids only to be repelled by the Aegis' overwhelming capabilities. Each encounter reinforced a simple truth: human ingenuity, combined with the power of a restored starship, could rival any force in the galaxy one day. While charting a course through a newly discovered nebula, Elias and Aegis detected signals from a distant human settlement under threat. Without hesitation, Elias adjusted the ship's trajectory. This time, they would arrive not as experimenters, but as protectors. The journey was tense as the nebula's dense gas clouds interfered with sensors. Elias relied on intuition, experience, and guidance from Aegis to navigate safely. When they emerged on the other side, the settlement was already under attack by a hostile alien convoy. Time for action, Elias said, determination flashing in his eyes. The battle was intense. The alien convoy was larger and more aggressive than previous encounters. Yet Elias's creativity and Aegis' adaptability turned the tide. Shield patterns shifted dynamically, weapon systems targeted critical points, and the ship moved like a predator in space, faster and smarter than any foe could anticipate. By the end of the engagement, the alien fleet retreated once again. Human settlements remained safe, and Elias' reputation, though quiet, was beginning to echo across the stars. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a symbol of human resilience and ingenuity. Back on the observation deck, Elias reflected on their journey. The forgotten starship, once abandoned and left to rot, had become a beacon of hope. Through determination, skill, and human creativity, he had transformed it into the ultimate galactic weapon, not for conquest, but for protection. Aegis spoke, its tone almost reverent. Elias, you have unlocked potential that even my creators could not fully utilize. Humanity is remarkable. Together, we are capable of greatness. Elias smiled. We've only just begun, Aegis. The galaxy is wide, and there's much to do. But one thing is certain: humans can rise to any challenge. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the hull. Somewhere out there, new threats waited. But Elias and Aegis would face them, not as conquerors, but as guardians. Humanity had proven its worth. Creativity, courage, ingenuity had turned a forgotten relic into a force capable of defending entire systems. And as the Aegis engines hummed and lights glowed with renewed life, Elias knew the legend of the starship would echo across the galaxy for generations, a testament to what humans could achieve. when they refused to be underestimated. The forgotten starship, once abandoned and left to rot, had found its purpose once more. And at its helm was a human mechanic who proved that the ingenuity of one person could change the fate of many.